So how does a student apply to it, or do all the students applying to FIIB and getting the admission are eligible for this?
Usually, a single student is only eligible to apply in one scholarship category, but we have allowed students to apply multiple scholarship categories also, depending upon their eligibility, of course.
So, ma'am, if we were to, like a cumulative look at all the scholarships, we have around 7 categories. What would be the total amount that can get disbursed in terms of scholarship across all the categories?
We have kept a scholarship fund of around 2.5 crore. I would encourage that students should apply to scholarship to apply if they're becoming eligible for a specific scholarship category. They should apply at the earliest, because every category has a dedicated.
How can these students, make sure and leverage and get a little cheat code that they can crack the interviews? Hi everyone, welcome on board. This is Anisha here today in conversation with Dr. Kokil from FIIB, who is the Dean of Research and Outreach at FIIB. So welcome on board, ma'am.
Thank you, Anisha.
Ma'am, before we start about, lots of questions that we are getting from the students about the admission process, the scholarships, there's lots of new things happening at FIIB. Would love to first know how has your journey been? Like, what made you come and become the Dean of Research and Outreach here?
Thank you, Anisha, for this question. I joined FIB in 2021, and after completing almost 20 years in academia, I thought it was time to transition to a school which was known for its business education and also research ecosystem. Before FIB, I was working with Amity University, and I was leading their PGDM programs, and also I was part of the doctoral research committee. When I joined FIP, I joined as a professor and transitioned into bigger roles like the one that I'm leading today. When I talk about my role specifically, my role includes building a research ecosystem within the institution, but also it has expanded to include designing student experience, learning experience, and also admissions. And in that capacity, perhaps I'm here today with you.
Awesome, that's lovely. And ma'am, one of the good validations, like you said, about the expanding student experience and the research, commendable work that you have done. We've got the AACSB accreditation also this year,
Absolutely.
and kudos to that, ma'am. It takes a lot of grilling for 5 years, and everything efforts which brings that out. But ma'am, asking you now, since you mentioned, we are talking about building more better research ecosystem and student experiences. One of the major parts is the whole admission flow, and a lot of students these days, of course, would love to have a better ROI. Hence we have like multiple scholarships, and I was seeing that this year we have a lot of newer scholarships which are incorporated. If you could share some light on what are the different types of scholarships, because I could see quite a lot of them based on students profile, beyond the merit and the need based scholarships. It would be really nice.
Absolutely. And I would like to first briefly talk about the institution's philosophy around scholarship, Anisha, first, that how we view scholarship as. Of course, scholarship rewards meritorious students, but I think we want a scholarship to be as inclusive as possible. A list of scholarship categories exist for us. For example, two of our most important scholarship categories are around merit, um, which is President Aspire and President Enable. President Aspire is specifically for meritorious students, irrespective of the social background anybody is coming from. It is primarily around the past performance. If you have been and if you have achieved in the past in terms of academic scores, and have achieved good CAT or GMAT percentile, you become eligible for this scholarship. Not just academic scores, but profile also matters to us a lot. Within the full tuition fee waiver, there is another category which is for students who are meritorious but comes from EWS backgrounds or
Okay.
socially disadvantaged backgrounds. For them also, we have given an option of full tuition fee waiver, where the requirements, the eligibility is somewhat lowered for this category.
So, ma'am, just for my understanding, like you mentioned, like it's the tuition waiver. So, tuition fees is one part of the overall fees that we pay. How much percentage would this be in terms of absolute numbers or in terms of the value for the students once they get that?
Is around 75%. So the student is only required to pay 25% of the total fees.
Okay.
And this is perhaps the highest waiver that any student would get in this category across the different business schools, because we did an extensive research and I can very confidently say that this is perhaps the highest tuition fee waiver any business school can provide. And we are providing 10 such scholarships to students.
Lovely. Ma'am, you mentioned like the students can get 100% fee waiver, and this is based on merit, and also term one it's evaluated. So, what all composites the merit? Is it going to be just my past academics or my entrance exam scores, or combination of all of this along with my term one performance?
So there is a complete criteria list that is available, where the students are not only judged on their past performance, but we're also judging their future potential.
Okay.
And we take into consideration certain criteria. Based on those criteria, there would be a shortlisting happening, and the shortlisted candidates would be asked to present their profile. There would be a panel that will be judging those presentations. Okay. On specified criteria, and based on that, the final list would be shared.
Awesome. And the best part is, guys, what is this criteria and those details, like ma'am mentioned, it is all available on their website. So I'm going to put that link in the description for all of you who are listening to us to understand what all aspects you can look at enhancing so that you can be one of those who get this 100% scholarship. Ma'am, this is with respect to, like, now you mentioned, the term one, we will present and we will get that. So, how does a student apply to it? Or do all the students applying to FIIB and getting the admission are eligible for this?
So these two categories specifically, while they're filling the forms, they will also be requiring to fill the scholarship form. So
Nice.
they can, while they're filling the application form, in that admission portal only, they have to fill the scholarship form, and the scholarship form would take them to a very detailed table where they can clearly understand what is expected out of them in terms of eligibility, in terms of the documentation that they have to submit, in terms of the timelines, and they can clearly judge that which scholarship category they're eligible for and which category they can apply. We have also decided that we would allow students to apply for multiple scholarship categories. Usually, a single student is only eligible to apply in one scholarship category, but we have allowed students to apply in multiple scholarship categories also, depending upon their eligibility, of course.
Awesome.
Saying that, we also have a clause which is a non-combinability clause, where two scholarships cannot be combined with each other, but the higher of the two would be the one that the student would be awarded. So there
Awesome.
also we have ensured students' interest in terms of, if they become eligible for two categories, it is the higher the scholarship of the higher value would be the one that they would ultimately be getting. But I would also mention here that every scholarship, since it's, the nature of the scholarship is that it has to go to the most deserving candidates. Therefore, it is important for anybody who is applying to the scholarship, to the institution, to read the scholarship policy in detail and understand that how it would be disbursed. And all the applications that we receive undergo scrutiny in terms of document verification to check the eligibility. There's a scholarship committee that operates at the institution level. So when I'm talking about first two categories, the results would be announced in term one. But for other categories, it would be activated. In terms of activation, I mean that the student would know whether they have got the scholarship or not at the time of admission. Once
Okay.
it gets cleared from the scholarship committee, so the admission department would send them a letter stating that yes, your scholarship is confirmed, of course, based on the present eligibility and the future eligibility that the institution has laid out for scholarship disbursement. I hope
Awesome.
I'm clear on that.
Awesome. That's understood. So, ma'am, the ones which we spoke about that the students can get at the time of admission essentially are the ones which come under like the Udan scholarship, the Empower
Yes,
scholarship, the Impact scholarship.
Achiever, Udan, Impact
Now,
Scholarship, which is Impact Scholarship is around work experience, and not just the work experience in uh, organizations, but also in social sector organization. So we also encourage students to apply to us who have worked in social sector organizations, and we would also be, you know, they can also become eligible for applying for scholarship.
awesome. So, ma'am, if we were to, like a cumulative look at all the scholarships, we have around seven categories. What would be the total amount that can get disbursed in terms of scholarship across all the categories?
We have kept a scholarship fund of around 2.5 crores,
Wow.
and therefore, from the past experience, also the number of applications we receive every year, I would encourage that students should apply to scholarship to apply if they're becoming eligible for a specific scholarship category. They should apply at the earliest, because every category has a dedicated fund allocated to it, and the sooner you apply, sooner are your chances to get that scholarship. But it's a huge
Awesome.
fund that we have invested in scholarships, and I'm hoping that perhaps all the deserving candidates would take advantage of this.
Awesome. All right. That's pretty interesting, ma'am. And ma'am, like we mentioned, like, we have an AI test. We also have a personal interview. What would be like the top three qualities you would look forward to in the students when you are sitting on the other side?
The criteria that I would be very keen, and of course my faculty members would be, the first is motivation and purpose. So we're looking for candidates who have clarity of goals and alignment with FIIB's ethos and sense of direction. We would love to have candidates with strong analytical and conceptual thinking, because you must be aware that this is one of the most sought out kind of a skill that is needed by the recruiters as well. So the ability to reason, structure problems, and draw logical conclusion is something which we really admire. Of course, communication and presence, clarity, coherence, confidence, and their ability to listen is important for us. Since as a business school, we pay a lot of importance on um, ethics and societal responsibility. So we want candidates who are applying to us should have integrity, respect, and accountability in the choices and the viewpoints they're expressing during the interview. Awareness about the business world is must, and I think I should not even talk about it. I think this is the basic everybody would know. And finally, the reflection and learning agility. They should be self-aware, and because self-awareness would lead them to grow and strengthen their own profile. Openness to feedback, a growth mindset is something is something which we are looking at. So these are some of the criterias that we usually use to evaluate candidates. But I would also add that it's a very the environment that exists in the interview room is something which the candidates would also enjoy. They should not be worried about and should not feel nervous, because this is an important interview for them, and they should feel confident. They should be open in expressing themselves. They are free to ask questions from faculty if they have any confusion. If they do not know the answer, they can be open about that, and say and tell the panel that yes, I think I'm not knowing it, or I'm unaware of it. I think that would be much appreciated than dodging around the question or answering it in a way which is not the right way of doing it.
All right, that's lovely, ma'am. I think that's going to be really helpful for all the students who are listening to us. And if you guys have any more doubts or questions which you would like to know with respect to the selection process, the program details, or the scholarships, feel free to drop in the comments and we will take that up for you. And thank you so much, Kokil ma'am, for joining us today. It was
Hey,
lovely to
Manisha,
have a conversation.
thank you. Same here. Thank you so much.